Picture this. You're standing shoulder to shoulder in the ranks of one of the most terrifyingly effective military machines in human history. You've got the iconic Roman armor on, you're marching beneath the Golden Eagle standard, serving the greatest empire on Earth. And then, one day, you just disappear. Welcome to our explainer on one of Rome's greatest, most baffling unsolved mysteries.
That's the absolutely impossible reality we're investigating today. No survivors, no discharge papers, no final battle reports. An entire elite Roman legion just seemingly vanishes from the historical record, leaving absolutely nothing behind. It's wild. For almost 2,000 years, historians have been agonizing over this cold case. Did they die in the freezing mud of a British battlefield, or did they just fade away?
I mean, seriously, how does an entire Roman army simply vanish? It's a puzzle that completely defies logic, especially when you consider just how obsessive the Roman military was about their paperwork. Okay, let's dive into this. To actually solve the mystery of the lost ninth, we need to understand exactly who these guys were.
We're talking about Legio IX Hispana, the Ninth Legion. These were not your green, fresh-faced rookies. This was a legendary, incredibly disciplined fighting force that had been around for generations. They fought in Gaul, they literally served under Julius Caesar himself, and they built the empire from the ground up. Whenever Rome needed hardened, absolute veterans to hold the line, the Ninth was who they called.
And you really have to wrap your head around the sheer scale of what went missing here. A Roman legion wasn't just a quick combat patrol. It was basically a sprawling mobile city. We're talking about over 5,000 highly trained infantrymen, hundreds of cavalry, top-tier officers, brilliant military engineers, plus thousands of support staff, blacksmiths, merchants, entire families. A force that massive literally reshapes the landscape just by walking through it. Erasing them from the map shouldn't be physically possible.
Now, before their trail goes completely ice cold, the Ninth actually left a massive, and I mean heavily documented, violently active footprint all across Britain. Their story there spans decades. It goes from the initial shock and awe of the Roman invasion in 43 AD straight through some catastrophic rebellions, all the way to their final known postings up on the freezing, highly dangerous northern frontier.
So the clock starts in 43 AD. Emperor Claudius decides to launch a full-scale invasion of Britain. And for the Romans, crossing the channel to Britain was basically like stepping off the edge of the known planet. It was a completely alien landscape, shrouded in dense fog and defended by fiercely independent Celtic tribes who fought like absolute demons. The Ninth Legion was totally instrumental in smashing through that initial resistance and grabbing a violent foothold for Rome.
But expanding the empire wasn't just about swinging swords. It was an agonizing, brutal grind of endurance and engineering. Picture these guys carrying over 60 pounds of armor, tools, and supplies, hacking their way through hostile, ancient forests. They're wading across freezing rivers. They're physically hauling timber to build the roads and the massive forts that kept Rome in power. And they're doing all of this while fighting off relentless guerrilla-style ambushes. The Roman conquest was literally built on the calloused backs of the Ninth.
But, as you might expect, the native tribes of Britain refused to just roll over. In 60 AD, all that simmering anger finally exploded. The tribes united in a massive revolt led by the iconic warrior queen, Boudica. And it was an absolute bloodbath. Her army swept across the province with terrifying fury, burning huge Roman cities, including Londinium, what we now call London, straight to the ground. Tens of thousands died, and for a minute there, it looked like the whole empire was going to be pushed right back into the sea. Naturally, the Ninth Legion was dispatched immediately as an emergency relief force to put an end to it. But they rushed it. In their hurry, they marched right into a catastrophic trap. Out in that dense, hostile territory, this elite legion was absolutely chopped to pieces. The ancient records tell us their infantry was nearly wiped out in the chaos. The commander and a handful of cavalry barely managed to ride out of the slaughter. It was a humiliating, devastating blow.
Yet, the Roman military machine, right? It just keeps churning. The legion miraculously received massive reinforcements, completely rebuilt its strength, and was eventually sent up to the very edge of the empire. They were stationed at a huge fortress in the north called Iberacum, which is modern-day York. And up there, they faced a brand new nightmare, defending the border against the fierce, untamed warriors of Caledonia, the people we later call the Picts. Every single patrol out into that northern mist was a roll of the dice.
Now, here is where things get truly incredibly weird. They were very actively building up that fortress in York around 108 AD. We have their officially stamped roof tiles, stone inscriptions, you name it. And then, the timeline just breaks.
After almost a century of this loud, chaotic, heavily documented history of fighting and building, the ink just dries up. Sometime around 120 AD, all references to the Ninth Legion completely stop. No epic final stand is recorded, no massive defeat is officially mourned, just absolute, chilling silence.
And that abrupt erasure, that's what sparked this 2,000-year-old cold case. Historians immediately noticed this massive, glaring hole in the Roman records, and they basically split into two opposing camps to explain it. One side argues for a bloody, catastrophic annihilation right there in the mud of northern Britain. The other side, they suggest a quiet administrative transfer to some other war zone on the opposite side of the world. All right, let's put on our detective hats for a second and look at the massive holes in both of these theories. First up, the northern slaughter scenario. This suggests the 9th March north into Caledonia got ambushed by tribal warriors and was wiped out to the last man. The glaring problem with that? You can't just hide 5,000 bodies. No massive battlefield, no mass graves, and definitely no captured golden eagle standards have ever been found. Then you've got the continental transfer theory, that they were quietly moved to fight in Europe or the Middle East. But honestly, the problem there is just as bad. There is zero definitive paper trail confirming they ever arrived, fought, or died anywhere else in the empire.
And that missing paper trail is the real kicker here, because ancient Rome, they were a massive, meticulous, administrative machine. We're talking highly detailed pay studs, discharge certificates, logistical receipts for grain. They rigorously documented where every unit moved. When they won, they built giant monuments. And when they lost, even their most humiliating, massive defeats were officially recorded by their historians. An entire legion just slipping through history's fingers goes against literally everything we know about how Rome kept its records.
So how exactly does a mountain of ancient paperwork and thousands of soldiers just vanish? Well, it's actually a pretty stark reminder of how history gets erased. It almost never happens all at once. First, you have later wars that burn down the ancient archives, taking out the primary sources. Then, whatever fragile papyrus or parchment is left simply rots away over the centuries. And finally, deep time just completely buries whatever physical evidence remains. It shows us that even the loudest, heaviest footprints of a colossal empire can be totally silenced by time. And because that final chapter is just gone, human imagination has kind of stepped in to fill the void. The sheer lack of concrete answers has turned a missing military unit into a deeply romantic myth. It's inspired classic novels like The Eagle of the Ninth and a bunch of Hollywood movies. We just love the idea of this doomed legion disappearing into the misty Scottish Highlands, making one final heroic stand against impossible odds.
But let's bring this back to why this actually matters to us today. This mystery isn't just a fun puzzle. It really exposes the profound fragility of our own past. We love to think of history as this fixed, perfectly recorded timeline that's set in stone. But the truth, a huge chunk of human history is built right over top of missing pages. Entire stories are lost, massive records destroyed, and people completely forgotten. Our grasp on the past is definitely not as permanent as we like to pretend.
Modern archaeologists are literally still out there today digging through the British soils searching for clues. And who knows, maybe tomorrow someone unearths a hidden archive or a rusted Roman sword in a lost valley that finally cracks the case of the Ninth. But until that happens, I want to leave you with this to chew on. If an elite, massive army of thousands can vanish completely off the face of the earth without a single trace, what else about our own history have we simply forgotten?